calls for President Akufo-Addo to reshuffle his ministers and his response to the very demands of the teeming masses, some from his own political party. You're welcome back. President Akufo-Addo earlier this week gave the strongest indication yet that he will not embark on a ministerial reshuffle anytime soon, despite calls from even his own party. Now, while periodic changes in the composition of ministerial teams are a presidential prerogative, President Akufo-Addo's justifications for refusing to rock the boat appear to have generated some controversy. Tonight, we are privileged to have joining us later in the conversation that distinguished governance and political science expert, Professor Joseph Achuaye, who in 2019 put together a very interesting article titled Some Thoughts on Ministerial Reshuffles in Ghana. But for now, a former power minister and ranking member on the Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises Committee of Parliament, who had recently called for the resignation of the finance minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, is joining us via Zoom. Also participating in this conversation is a former Deputy General Secretary of the governing MPP, Nana Obi-Buayin. Gentlemen, you're welcome to our front. But let me start with Nana Obi-Buayin. Now, what do you say to the president's response suggesting that one has to be a member of the NDC or seeking to collapse his government or an aggressive job seeker to demand for a reshuffle under these circumstances?
Let me be very honest. Constitutionally, legally, it is the president who has the mandate to appoint and permit me to use the word to disappoint. That is to reshuffle.
Okay.
So, if you consider the conduct of our colleagues in NDC, their comments, utterances, body language, then the president is right that they are bent on stabilizing his government. As far as I'm concerned, I'm particular, even when we are talking of reshuffle, I am particular about people holding political positions, not ministers and deputy ministers. Yeah, it goes down to MCs, DCs. Because I can tell you authoritatively that the NDP lost in about 20 to 30 constituencies as a result of internal bickering between DCs and constituency executives. DCs, MCs versus MPs, MPs versus constituency executives. You know, you cannot reshuffle the constituency executives. You cannot reshuffle the MPs, but you can permit you to. You can reshuffle the DCs or the MCs. So, well, there's nothing wrong about the comments by the president. But my suggestion is that, Mr. President, well spoken, that I will humbly plead with you to also listen to some of members of our party, especially where you have Food Soldiers Association raising concerns. I am not so keen about ministers and then deputy ministers. I'm saying that ministers, deputy ministers, MCs, CEOs who hold their positions by virtue of presidential appointment. So generally, that is how I consider the issue as taken.
So in all fairness, for you, it's not. And we've heard not only NDC people speak, but the president believes that apart from the NDC part, those who are seeking that he engages in some form of reshuffle are purely people who are looking for jobs. they are seeking to replace the people that they want reshuffled. Is it factual?
Well, I think that we should, personally, I think that I'll plead with the president to consider the sentiments of the foot soldiers. You know, I've been with the party for 30 years, 30 solid years. So when you have association of foot soldiers, association of communicators, association of this, association of that, we need to pay particular attention to them, including the former Delta Force members. We need to pay particular attention for the role, their contributions towards the victory and success of the new patriotic party.
It's interesting because these groups you have just mentioned, all that they've been saying is that the people that they want reshuffled have not delivered. They believe that without they being reshuffled, the future of the party is bleak. Is it also sentiments you share in this case?
No, you see, we want to break the eight. And you need the support and assistance of every activist, sympathizer, supporter of our party. You need to listen to contributions, comments by every supporter, activist, sympathizer of the party. With due respect, some of these comments, some of these contributions, some of these exhortations may be groundless. But you need to listen to them. Then you need to listen to other groups, other categories of individuals and groups within the party. Then you bring all these contributions on board. Then you consider them, you weigh them. Then you set out the relevant one to make our party formidable so as to break the eight.
Now, this is a political party. There will be different demands. There will be different people within the party. There will be different groups who may have different interests at all points in time. From where you sit, when the president said he monitors the work of all ministers and he knows their performance, do you agree with him that when it comes to reshuffle, he knows better than the people who are making the demands?
Well, let us not even restrict ourselves to politics. It is a general position in life that sometimes, with due respect, you may be the leader, but you will not be fed with enough and sufficient information on the ground. That is possible. Even in the church room, you can experience that. In our homes, you can experience that. In our schools, you can experience that. I mean, them football clubs, you can experience that. So, yes, the president has spoken. Well noted, but Mr. President, exercise some amount of minutes or seconds and listen to those who are pouring out their sentiments. And let's look at them holistically. Because we need all and sundry to be on board.
I get your point here. If the president proceeds on the current stance he's actually pursuing, I mean, you can't compel him to do a reshuffle. As you said, it's his prerogative to actually make those decisions. What's the end game here? If he says, I'm still going to go ahead with my team, I have confidence in them. In fact, his word is that they've been outstanding. So I'm still going to go ahead with them.
Yes, certainly they have been outstanding. But at the same time, you have another group of supporters of our party who are also itching and then dropping the hint that you must take a second look at the performance of these individuals. Like I said, in this contest, let's expand it to include DCs, MCs. It's very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
so you need to take a look at all these things. Yes, I agree. They are performing well. Perfect. But sometimes within the situation we find ourselves as a political party that is determined to break the eight, we need to listen to complaints, sentiments, arguments from other members, stakeholders, all stakeholders. Irrespective of the fact that their comments may be distasteful, unpalatable, they must take a look, listen to them. Then we balance issues. Then we move ahead.
there is also a general demand for, and those even outside the very grouping of your party. For example, on the joining us via Zoom is Dr. Kwame Donko. he's been very clear in his mind that the finance minister must go. As we speak, since Friday, there has been 2 major downgrades, pushing it into an area that we have previously have not been before. That is the C categories for both the Standard & Poor's and recently Fitch. Our inflation is over 30%. The exchange rate is in complete crisis as we find ourselves. Are these not very compelling factors, even if the calls are not coming from within your party, for at least a change that signals that something new is about happening on the speed of the economy?
I beg to differ. That is my personal view. I beg to differ. You see, I beg to differ in the sense that our brothers in the NDC, including Dr. Acquah, I mean, since the birth of the new patriotic party, there's not a single step that we've taken that they have congratulated us. So, looking at the NDC as a party and their attitude towards us, and looking at the performance of the finance minister, I can boldly say that I beg to differ. I hold the contrary view.
Okay, give me a second.
Delivered.
Nana, give me a second. Let me speak to Dr. Acquah. Doc, you're welcome to UPfront. The president was very clear because people like you had demanded the finance minister must go. He says it's only because you want to destabilize his government. That's why you're making such a demand. Now, if Doc, you can unmute so that I can join us. Dr. Acquah. Okay, so I should be able to get to him when we fix that connection with Zoom. But maybe I'll come to you for your very final words on this conversation. We are talking here about a group of people that will make up the majority of your voters internally, and for a political party that was looking to do the impossible. You say that any demand, any reshuffle should be extended beyond ministers and deputy ministers to those at the DC level and at the various regions, as you have actually argued earlier. Okay, I'll still come back to you, Nana Bribuahe. Now, Dr. Acquah, I was making the point to you that for you who have purposed in your heart to destroy and destabilize this government, the president says you're not the ones to tell him when to do a reshuffle. Why do you have the intentions of destroying a government, especially one that you're not part of, especially one that is delivering on these goals as the president has indicated?
Well, I didn't hear the president, and I want to assume that what you are stating is exactly what he said, and that he didn't also say it in a lighter mood. I am not talking about asking the president to reshuffle MPP executives. I haven't said that.
Yeah.
I'm asking the president to reshuffle, particularly a minister who has underperformed, a minister under whose duty toll Ghana's international status has fallen into the doldrums, a minister under whose duty toll inflation is hit 30%, a minister under whose duty toll our reserves are virtually depleted. So it is not about MP. It is about Ghana. Ghana is bigger than any political party. And I have this political theory of GPS, Ghana party self, in that hierarchy. The interests of Ghana must supersede the interests of the MPP and any other party for that matter. And the interests of Ghana must not only supersede that of parties, but must supersede that of individuals. The finance minister did the yeoman's job in the private sector. I've praised him for that, particularly in the fintech sector. But in the public sector, the evidence is that he has proven incapable of running the Ghanaian economy. All the indicators point to that. And therefore, it is not about MPP. Ghana is bigger than MPP. Let's situate the discussion in the context of Ghana, corporate Ghana, or Ghana PLC.
So
Yes.
So you're saying you have no intentions of destabilizing the government. So if by your very proposal, the NPP ends up losing power, you will not be happy that they have lost power and they have left power for you in the NDC to come in, really?
No, losing power or winning power is a function of the electorate. The Ghanaian electorate, I believe, will do what is right for Ghana come 2024. However, before 2024, must the country sink to its lowest ebb on the altar of partisanship?
Okay.
Must we, as a people, dip deeper into the hole? Absolutely not.
But why do you think the president is so convinced your only motive is to destabilize his government?
His Excellency knows better than that. That for some of us, we are first and foremost nationalists. The interest of Ghana supersedes that of any political party. If Ken Ofori-Atta had performed, look, I was on one of your programs about the energy minister some time back.
Okay.
And it was a breath of fresh air. I praised him. Energy minister isn't an NDC minister. So for me, it is not about NDC or MPP. Here we are. What's the rate of inflation? Today, the city has broken the 9. The city has broken the 9. What more evidence do we need?
But are these out of the direct action? The macroeconomic indicators you make reference to, is it out of the direct conduct of the finance minister? How is he responsible for where we find ourselves here today?
Who runs the macroeconomy? Who has the responsibility? If things go well, he takes the credit. Remember, he organized the Kenke Party when Ghana exited the IMF program. He took the applause. And therefore, it is only fair that when things are this bad, he takes responsibility. And I disagree with His Excellency the President when he says only the NDC and people who are hungry, who are looking for jobs. I don't think the people in MPP and other professionals, other neutrals who have called for a reshuffle are all looking for jobs. There are people who won't even take jobs when offered. But at least the interest of Ghana must take precedence over any partisanship. His Excellency should take a second look at a reshuffle. A reshuffle is a tool of governance.
When we're going to the IMF program in 2015, you were at a point in time a Minister of State in charge of power.
Absolutely.
There were calls for your resignation along the line. There were also calls for the resignation of the finance minister, but I never heard you add up to the voice of those calling for the then finance minister to resign because the economy was in some difficulty.
Look, compare the economy in 2015, 2016 to the economy today. Compare. There will always be some amount of unsatisfaction with everybody's work, some amount. But in relative terms, by the way, I resigned because I thought the time was right to resign for somebody else to take up the mantle. I absolutely believe that reshuffle is a tool. For some of us, we think, what else do we need to show that the finance minister has bitten more than he can chew? This is a man who said we had the men, we had the resources, we're never going to go on an IMF program. In any other jurisdiction where principles are held sacred, he will be the first to fall on his dagger. And so it is unfortunate if he says the Excellency the President thinks the finance minister, for example, is doing a marvelous job.
Outstanding is the kind of word he used. Outstanding.
Yeah.
The president says it's his daily responsibility to review the work of the ministers he operates with. And he assesses them every day, whether they meet the mark. Dr. Raymond Acquah, are you saying that you know better than the president when it comes to who is performing and who is delivering an outstanding work within his government?
Well, people are responsible for sectors, aren't they?
Certainly.
People are responsible for sectors. And it's not a beauty contest where we look at whose face is more beautiful than the other. What we are looking at are macro indicators. Is the sector performing well? If the sector is performing well, I have no business calling on the Minister for Finance to resign if the sector was performing well. But if the sector is not performing well, Ghana is not the monopoly of any single group, be it a political party, be it whatever it is, a political class. Ghana is not the monopoly. It is not the monopolized asset of any group. Ghana belongs to all of us. And therefore, if a particular minister, we judge ministers by indicators, by performance, key performance indicators. If all the key performance indicators are in the negative, and remember, he did not pick up from a point of negativity. What he picked up, our credit rating, so he was able, he's raised up over $11 billion from the bond market, just the Euro bond market alone. He's done that because the economy was in a better shape. Today, we can't raise a single dollar on the Euro market because our bonds have achieved junk status.
But we know why we are where we are today. It's been explained to you, except you don't want to accept it, that there is a Ukraine-Russia difficulty. There's also...
The downgrade started before Ukraine-Russia, please.
Yes.
The downgrade started before you.
How about the COVID-19 pandemic, which affected so many countries across the world?
I don't want to believe that COVID jammed Cote d'Ivoire, jammed Togo, jammed Sierra Leone, jammed Nigeria, and landed only in Ghana. How many of our sister countries in our immediate neighborhood have had the catastrophic situation that we are experiencing? How many of them? If COVID was unique to Ghana, I would have taken that excuse, but COVID was universal. Indeed, if we talk about the Ukraine-Russian war, Ukraine has not had these bonds fall to junk status. So how about this? Several thousand miles away. We have totally mismanaged our economy. We have handed the economy to somebody whose competence at macroeconomy, public sector, has been proven by events to be deficient. And therefore, he must make way for another person who has what it takes.
There's a question, though.
Mr. President, not about MPP, just about MPP. If it were just about MPP, some of us would have kept our cool. But this is about Ghana, a country of 31 million people who have equal right in this country. We have a right to expect competent political economic management.
Now, my last question to you, because you've been power minister before, for somebody who's been in this sector and been in this country for a long period, and you've been minister in the previous government, the vice president was so clear in his mind that your government actually left this government two of the major problems while we are going for an IMF program. Do you have the moral authority to demand a reshuffle, especially of the man who is fixing the mess the vice president said you created?
Excuse me, if you had mentioned the vice president earlier, we will not even come on the program. Almost every single thing the vice president has said has proven to be false. We called the Minister of Finance to Parliament to answer a parliamentary question. The figures he gave as to how much capacity charge that this country has had to pay was less than $1 billion. But when we further questioned, they even calculated fuel as capacity charge. So really, we are talking about a vice president.
Well, I seem to have lost Dr. Kwabena Donkor. He is former power minister. He's one of the people that have been leading the charge for the finance minister to resign. Ostensibly one of those in the NDC that the president had referenced were interested in destabilizing his government. I sure should have Nana Obi-Buai on if... okay, well, I sure should be able to go to Zoom and be joined by a man that I told you early on had extraordinary academic competence, Professor Joseph Achuaye. Now, in 2009, you wrote an article, Prof. You had thoughts on reshuffles in Ghana. You traced back to our history and brought us to the current situation. You're welcome very specially to UPfront, sir.
Well, let me say that a ministerial reshuffle is a periodic alteration or change in the composition of the ministerial team.
Okay, Prof.
And it is a very important tool in the hands of a president or a prime minister. And one of the things that I have looked at is that a reshuffle will have benefits and costs.
Okay.
And I have followed the discussion all along. And before I came here, I was trying to look at the reshuffle record of the current president. And I will tell you that he is not interested in reshuffle. This president, the only major reshuffle we had was the transition reshuffle, where some ministers, because they lost their parliamentary seats, they didn't come back and vice versa. But this president is not interested or is not keen at reshuffling. And I look at if you look at the Kufuor period, there were 16 reshuffles, both minor and major. But this current president, apart from the transition one, there has not been any major thing. He wants to work closely with people. Of course, reshuffle is a very distasteful and difficult role of a president. I understand him, but you see, at the same time, if you look at the Constitution, there are two things that the ministers will have to do: assist the president in terms of the cabinet, assist the president in the determination of general policy of the government. Okay. And in terms of the ministerial team, they are to ensure efficient running of the states. That's it. So if people are complaining, of course, the president has the right to say, well, they are doing well. But you see, you also look at the perception of people. And in this country, we have ignored perception. Perception can be right, it can be wrong. But I think that he also needs to look at the performance. You see, I will not single out the minister for finance to be reshuffled, but the team, the ministerial team, is the team competent to deliver Ghana out of the woods. And I think that the president is in a better position to do this. But having said that, he should also listen to the party, he should also listen to the public. But above all, I always say that whether we like it or not, the president is accountable to the people of Ghana. And because of that, he needs to govern properly. And this is the time for him to leave a legacy. And the only legacy is that, well, is your team doing well? And he must be frank to himself. He must be frank to the party. He must be frank to the nation and say, well, the team is not doing well. There are some areas which need to be strengthened. And that's it. So I would not single out one sector. No, it's a ministerial team. Have you delivered or you have not delivered? Finally, you see, we have been talking about the performance of ministers, but I doubt if the president has a performance contract, has signed a performance contract with the ministers. If he has done it, share it with the nation, that these are the grades that I've given on the score of these. But the lack of transparency, the lack of candor in governance in this country has been problematic to those of us who are students and teachers of political science and public administration.
Prof, I need to take you up on some of the issues you have raised, and it's interesting that you brought them into purview. First, there is a general call, and Nana Obi-Buayin reiterated these calls. The general call from within the party, foot soldiers, and some members of parliament joined the call to demand the reshuffle. In fact, for him, Nana Obi-Buayin, throughout his almost 30-year stay in Ghanaian political fray, this is the first time there seemed to be some huge rallying call from within the political party for reshuffle, barely 2 years into the second term of the government. So the president should listen to the people. To you, can they compel him to make a change, regardless of the fact that constitutionally, the prerogative lies in his bosom?
You see, the story would have been different if the president were to going for a second term. This is his last term. He would not mind so much. Let me go on. So he will not mind so much. But then he should listen. I think that even though the presidential system of government is not a party government, the president is a head of state, head of government, and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So he has two options. In fact, he's wearing actually two hats, a partisan man and a non-partisan person. And I think that we as a country, we have not been able to blend the partisanship and the non-partisanship. It looks like we have used the partisanship. But once your party is saying that you would have to reshuffle, I think he should listen to the call. If he is interested in the promise of breaking the eight, I think this is the right opportunity. Of course, I'm not saying that the reshuffle is the magic wand.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not a magic wand, but I think that when people are talking, the general public, the sectors, some of the sectors are not doing well, why not? It is up to him to listen. The president is seen as a listening president, and he himself has said it several times. And if you are listening president, I think this is the time to listen and then, of course, institute whatever reshuffles based on performance. I always say that the bottom line is performance, no other reason.
Now, it's very key, the point that you have made, because we've heard sectors of the country and people from specific areas saying that when it comes to the sharing of positions, they've been left out for a very long time. And so in order for the party not to miss out on their votes, they should be now reflected in government and national character of a sort, but reflecting the kind of people who have contributed very well to governance. Will the president have to compare both loyalty, political expediency, and performance before he comes with a decision of whether or not he has to do a reshuffle?
Oh, well, all these things are taken into account. The ethnic factor, the gender, balance, performance. But I think that the first criterion I will use is performance.
Okay.
And then the others will follow. If we're able to do these things, properly based on meritocracy. I think merit is very important. I always say that Ghana cannot be governed by people who do not have the pedigree. It must be governed by people who have the pedigree. And that's why sometimes I get a little bit upset about Parliament's appointment committee of approving everybody. There must be ways and means of saying we cannot approve your nomination. But it has not done that. So I think that we should move away from this merry-go-round. Let us put merit, ethnicity, gender, regional balance, and what have you.
Now, there's a question, though. The first response of the president, some have had problems with it. I don't know what you think about it. He said those who are demanding the reshuffle, first, they are those who are looking for jobs. Secondly, it's also NDC people who are seeking to destabilize his government. Is the reaction appropriate?
Oh, well, yes, because when you do a reshuffle, of course, some people will miss out and some people will come in. So it's a way of also getting people jobs within the party.
Okay.
Right? there's some, yeah, so that's right. But whether, and of course, when you reshuffle, sometimes the impression given is that your government is not doing well. So it becomes another cost to you. So I think it is paradoxical. Yes, you can reshuffle it to rejuvenate the ministerial team, new ideas, fresh ideas, and all that. But on the other hand, it creates a negative perception that the government is not doing well. I don't think he should say that, because the call is from not within, is from everywhere. It's from his own party, it's from the minority group. But I will not blame the NDC. Why should I blame a party which is calling for reshuffle as a way of destabilizing your? I don't think I would want to go there. I think it's not the right response.
Now, let me also bring in the very thoughts that you have expressed before. When you wrote that article in 2009, one of the things that intrigued you was the implications of reshuffle on the assessment of the public policies and the record of government in office. In effect, if I do a reshuffle, is it an indication that my people are not performing and that this government is failing?
It's both ways. It could be that you want to bring fresh ideas. Your government is not performing. It could be you want to strengthen or redirect policy in another way. So it's both ways. Either the government is not doing well or you want to strengthen the performance of the government. That's why reshuffling is paradoxical. On one hand, it has benefits. On the other hand, it has costs. So yes, I'll say that the reshuffle will also assist the government to strengthen existing policies. At the same time, the perception it creates is that your government is not doing well. That is why, you see, because this president has not done minor and major reshuffles, and the timing is also right because he has another 2.5 years more. So the timing is right because reshuffling, if you don't take care, you have done it late, you will not achieve the impact. So the earlier, the better.
Now, they are also saying that all that it does is bringing in fresh brains who may have to take a year or two to adjust to real ministerial work and may not necessarily be able to deliver, mindful of the fact that this is the second term of a government. Do you agree?
No, you see, sometimes you can appoint deputy, you can actually promote. So reshuffle is not only about demotion, it's not only about dismissal, but about promotion. So there are some deputy ministers or ministers in other areas who are knowledgeable in that area, and they can bring fresh ideas, fresh blood. And I think that it's not too late. I always say that even 1 year, you can make an impact, depending on the fact that you hit the ground running. If you're able to do that, why not? 2 years, 2.5 years, you can make an impact.
Now, the other question that people have raised in the course of this conversation is the question that's suggesting that a reshuffle is urgent to break the 8. What do you think?
Well, I'm not a seer or prophet. The people of Ghana are the better judges. I would not. I don't know. I think that the two are not linked. If the harm has already been done, no amount of change would actually break the 8. Or if the people of Ghana are convinced about your performance, why not? You can break the 8. So I think that I'll leave that judgment to the people of Ghana.
Now, I'm asking this question because the president says one of his legacies, in fact, the most important legacy he feels should be left for the party is his ability to lead them, or his ability to leave the party or hand over to another MPP government. Would a reshuffle aid that process?
It may, but it depends on the timing of it. If it's too late, it may not make any impact. So I think that maybe now, 2.5 years, you can turn things around. But if it is late, maybe a year to the end of the term of office, I'm not sure whether to make it. But the real thing is that you need to look at the ministerial team. Is the team, the ministerial team, working as a loom? You see, because during the recent public press conference by the Minister for Communication and Digitalization, she made the point that the Ministry of Finance, no, the Ministry of Interior, the coordination of, I think she was talking about the coordination of the SIM card registration. And then I think the point she was trying to make is to blame the Minister for Interior and all that. It looks like the ministries are working in a silo. I've not seen that loom, that ministerial frequency, freeness, flow of things, so that they agree. It looks like they're disagreeing, in public. So I think that those things must be looked at and see how best the ministerial team must work as a team.
Fantastic. I just should come back to you in a jiffy, Prof. Let me now hear from Dr. Kwabena Donkor. Doc, I was talking about a party that seeks to do what's never happened in the Fourth Republic, win a third term. And for a government that's having all the difficulties we are currently sitting, we lost you along the line when you were making the point about what the current situation tells us about the need for a reshuffle. If you can hear me, Dr. Kwabena Donkor.
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Brilliant. You were making the point about, as we speak, we've had our second downgrade. Inflation is crossed almost, 30% to 31, almost 32 anyway. Now, we're also having a current difficulty with the exchange rates. You have been consistent in the call that the finance minister ought to be let go for this particular, for all the reasons that's happening. Are these factors emboldening your call, or after all of this review, you think that maybe he might not be the problem, and a change in finance minister may not necessarily resolve all of these major problems?
No, a change will not resolve all the problems, but it will go a long way in giving Ghana a new leash. For example, this is a finance minister who says we will never go to the fund, we have the result, we have this, and in less than a month we are going to the fund. So where lies the credibility of such a person leading the Ghanaian negotiating team? Look, on paper, they say the vice president is the chairman of the economic management team. He's a ceremonial head. The effective leader of Ghana's economic management team is the finance minister. Look at the Public Financial Management Act. You don't find the vice president in it. Virtually all the powers are vested in the finance minister. So here is a finance minister who has come to his wit's end. Other ministers who have abysmally failed. But the finance minister is the sledgehammer. He will effectively be leading the negotiations with the IMF and others. And if you use any key performance indicator, the finance ministry has not delivered. And he's the head of the finance ministry. We take political responsibility. And that is so important in setting the right precedent in Ghanaian politics. In Ghanaian politics, we hardly want to take responsibility. In other jurisdictions, people would take responsibility, even though it might not have been the direct, a result of a direct act of the person taking responsibility. But you are the political head. You take you take the kudos when they come. Why won't you take the responsibility? The CD has crossed the 9. It's broken through the 9. Forget about breaking the 8. The CD has broken through the 9. And we think it's normal. We think such a person is performing. We think the Ghanaian economy is performing. Absolutely not.
Do you think these most recent events will compel the president to act?
Well, I wish the president well, but I also want the president to remember that he's the president of the Republic of Ghana. and not just the leader of the MPP. He's the president of the Republic of Ghana. And the interests of Ghana must take precedence over any other interest. There might be reasons why he wants to keep the finance minister. There might be reasons, but in the interest of Mother Ghana, in the interest of Father Ghana, we must have a new team at the helm of affairs running our national economy. And particularly when we have delicate and critical negotiations, we need a new team, a new face, and a new ethos.
Now, I sure should be able to speak to, of course, I lost Dr. Kwabena Donkor there, but Professor Joseph Achuaye is still with us in this conversation. Maybe I'm taking some final words before we wrap up on this conversation. Prof, my very last set of questions to you are in the area of strategy, strength, and the development of this country. If the president says, to hell with all those insisting I should do a reshuffle, what are the implications of that statement?
Well, he cannot say to hell with them because he is accountable to the people of Ghana, and therefore he must listen. So I would not expect him to be intransigent. I'm sure that he would actually see the need, for the change. The other thing is that, as I said, he's not a fan of reshuffles. If you look at the history of his record, he's not a fan of it. So maybe it is time for the party national elders to have a chat with him. I think that's one of the way out to see how best to deal with the situation. I would say that let us take a holistic review of the ministerial team and see which areas they can look at and then change. Otherwise, I will not go in for one person. Let us look at the team as a whole.
Now, the last set of questions I did say I was asking you was about moving forward. What does this president's posturing about reshuffle tell of the future of governance and the structures we have put in place? Over the years, we've seen presidents being willing to make changes when, especially, there's a general call for it. Yes. Is this going to be a new kind of politics, or this will be something that's only to be seen under this government, within this tradition, or in this period alone?
No, I think that this is the style of the current president. He does not like reshuffle. Of course, if you talk to former president, former prime minister, they will say that reshuffle has been the most distasteful and difficult decisions that they've made. But I think this president is different. It's a different kind of person who would like to work with a team. Maybe he has made up his mind that for the next 8 years, this is the team. You can see the core ministries. He retained almost everybody. Certainly. Right? So I think that it may change under a new president, whether NPP or NDC. So I think this is his style of governance, which is also not good for promoting good governance, because here you have more or less a national call or national cry. Let us reshuffle. And the president is saying that, oh, my ministers are outstanding. I don't think is good, for the country. It's good for governance, because in governance you need to listen, you need to take account of public views, you need to take account of opinions of people and all that. So as I already said, I think the party elders may have to step in and have a chat with him.
Final words before we go. Is the president being a tough guy?
I think so, yeah. On one hand, he's tough, but on the other hand, you can be tough, but then you must work within the confines of good governance.
Would it be a sign of weakness if he listens?
Which is a sign of weakness. So I think that, so he is tough, which is also good, but he's also weak in terms of promoting the good governance agenda, which this country has been trying to pursue, even since independence.
I am grateful for your time this evening and ever distinguished Professor of Political Science and Governance, Professor Joseph Acquah. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. We should be speaking more in the future.
Right, okay, thanks.
And many thanks to you, Dr. Kwabena Donkor and Nana Obi-Brian, for also joining this conversation about whether or not it's time for a reshuffle to happen, the president's response, and what's been the conversation around Ghana's ministerial musical chairs, what's likely to happen in the future too, as the country faces more difficulties. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining our front.